When you think of dangerous animals in Australia, your mind goes straight to the obvious ones: the saltwater crocodile, the box jellyfish, the great white shark, the funnel-web spider. Everyone knows those. But here is the twist that most people get completely wrong. The animals that actually send Australians to the hospital and in some regions kill more people than the famous monsters are often the ones nobody warns you about. So forget the crocodile for a moment. These are 10 Australian animals that can genuinely hurt or kill you, and that you would almost never expect. And a quick note on how this list works. It is ranked not by how frightening each animal seems, but by the genuine threat it poses to everyday people, which is exactly why the creatures you have been taught to fear are nowhere to be found here. We begin with a giant that looks far scarier than it actually is. Starting at number 10 is a spider that has caused more panicked car crashes than actual injuries: the Huntsman. If you have ever seen a video of an Australian screaming and leaping out of their vehicle, there is a good chance a Huntsman was the reason. These spiders are enormous, with a leg span that can reach the size of an adult's hand, and they are fast, darting across walls, ceilings, and car dashboards with unnerving speed. For most people, the Huntsman is the stuff of nightmares. But here is the honest truth. The Huntsman is essentially harmless. It is not aggressive. It would much rather flee than fight. And while it can bite if cornered or handled, its venom is mild, causing only minor local pain and swelling at worst. The real danger from a Huntsman is almost never the spider itself. It is the human reaction to it, drivers who lose control of their cars in a frenzy of panic when one scuttles across the windscreen. In fact, many Australians have learned to see the Huntsman as a helpful houseguest, since it feeds on cockroaches, flies, and other pests, quietly patrolling walls and ceilings at night and keeping homes clear of far more annoying insects. It is the perfect way to start this list. A spider that proves fear and actual danger are two very different things, and that in Australia, appearances can be wildly deceiving. At number 9 is a bird that turns a stretch of every Australian spring into a war zone: the magpie. For most of the year, the Australian magpie is a beloved, intelligent songbird with a beautiful warbling call. But for a few weeks each spring, during breeding season, a small number of males transform into aggressive, territorial dive bombers. To protect their nests, they swoop down on anyone who passes, striking at the head with beak and claws, often coming from behind with no warning at all. It sounds almost comical until you consider the consequences. Swooping magpies cause thousands of injuries every year, including serious wounds to the face and, most alarmingly, to the eyes, with people losing vision from direct strikes. Even more dangerously, the panic they cause has led to tragedy. Cyclists have swerved into traffic or crashed while trying to escape a swooping bird, resulting in deaths. Australians take the threat so seriously that they attach zip ties to their helmets and draw eyes on the back of their hats to fend the birds off. What makes the magpie's behavior even more remarkable is its intelligence. These birds can recognize individual human faces and remember them for years, which means a magpie that has decided a particular person is a threat will single them out and target them specifically, swooping the same unlucky individual again and again, day after day. A songbird that turns whole neighborhoods into no-go zones every spring, the magpie is a genuinely dangerous seasonal hazard. At number 8 is the animal on Australia's own coat of arms, a national icon with a powerful and dangerous kick, the kangaroo. The largest species, the red kangaroo, can stand over 6 feet tall and weigh nearly 200 pounds, built with enormously muscular hind legs and a thick, balancing tail. Kangaroos are not predators and have no interest in eating anyone, but a large male, especially during mating season or when it feels cornered, can be extraordinarily dangerous. Standing upright, a big male can deliver a kick powerful enough to break bones and rupture internal organs, using its tail as a support to lash out with both feet at once. Their forelimbs end in sharp claws capable of deep slashing wounds. There is even a documented defensive tactic where a threatened kangaroo will lead a pursuing dog into water and attempt to hold it under to drown it, a trick that has occasionally endangered people trying to intervene. There is a strange danger in how tame some kangaroos have become, too. In areas where people feed them, kangaroos lose their natural wariness and will approach expecting food, and a large male that does not get what it wants can turn on a person in an instant, lashing out with those powerful legs at someone standing right beside it. Encounters that turn violent are rare, but when a powerful wild kangaroo does attack, the results can be severe, proving that Australia's cuddliest-looking icon has a genuinely formidable side. At number 7 is a massive animal that most people do not even realize lives in Australia, the feral water buffalo. Introduced to the country in the 19th century and later gone wild, enormous herds of water buffalo now roam the wetlands and floodplains of Australia's top end. A full-grown buffalo can weigh over 1,000 kilograms, carrying a huge sweep of curved horns, and while they may look slow and placid, wallowing in the mud, they are anything but. Feral buffalo are unpredictable and can be extremely aggressive, particularly bulls, and when they charge, they bring an unstoppable amount of weight and power, capable of trampling and goring a person to death. They are especially dangerous in the dense tropical scrub of the north, where a startled buffalo can burst out of the brush at close range with almost no warning. The scale of the problem is enormous. At their peak, hundreds of thousands of feral buffalo roamed the Northern Territory, churning up fragile wetlands and creating a hazard on remote roads where hitting a 1-ton animal in the dark is every bit as catastrophic as it sounds. For people living and working in remote northern Australia, the feral buffalo is a serious hazard, a reminder that some of the continent's biggest dangers are animals that were never even supposed to be there. At number 6 is a wild dog wrapped in one of the most infamous stories in Australian history, the dingo. Australia's native wild dog, the dingo is a lean, intelligent predator found across much of the mainland and, most famously, on Fraser Island, now known as K'gari. For the most part, dingoes are wary of humans and avoid contact. But they are genuine predators, hunting in packs, and where they have lost their fear of people, often through being fed by tourists, they can become bold and dangerous. The danger became seared into the national consciousness in 1980, when a 9-week-old baby, Azaria Chamberlain, was taken by a dingo from a campsite near Uluru, a case that gripped and divided the country for decades before the dingo's role was finally confirmed. Since then, there have been further attacks, particularly on K'gari, including the death of a young boy and numerous injuries to children and adults. Wildlife authorities on K'gari now enforce strict rules because of this, with heavy fines for anyone caught feeding the animals, because every scrap of human food teaches a dingo that people mean an easy meal, eroding the natural caution that normally keeps both dingoes and humans safe. Wild, clever, and a true predator when it loses its fear of humans, The dingo is a powerful reminder of the danger that comes with feeding wild animals. Before we reach the top 5, if you are enjoying this look at Australia's hidden dangers, a quick subscribe genuinely helps the channel grow. Now, back to the countdown, where the animals get smaller and somehow far more deadly. At number 5 is an animal you would never think to fear, one that hangs in the trees by the thousands, the flying fox, Australia's giant fruit bat. With a wingspan that can exceed a meter, these bats are a spectacular sight at dusk, streaming across the sky in enormous colonies. They do not bite unless handled, and they have no interest in people. So, why are they on this list? Because a small percentage of them carry something genuinely terrifying, Australian bat lyssavirus, a close relative of rabies. If the virus is transmitted through a bite or scratch from an infected bat and goes untreated, it attacks the nervous system and is very nearly always fatal, causing a horrifying rabies-like death. There have been a small number of human cases in Australia, and every single one of them has ended in death. The reassuring news is that the virus is rare. Transmission requires direct contact with an infected bat, and prompt medical treatment after exposure is highly effective. This is why wildlife experts have one firm rule about flying foxes: never handle one, no matter how helpless it appears. Injured bats, found on the ground or tangled in netting, are exactly the ones most likely to be sick, and only trained, vaccinated rescuers should ever touch them. But the flying fox earns its place as a stark reminder that in Australia, even a gentle, fruit-eating animal drifting silently overhead can carry one of the deadliest diseases on the planet. At number 4 is a snake that is common, widespread, and lives right alongside people, the red-bellied black snake. Named for the glossy black body and vivid crimson underside that make it unmistakable, this snake is found throughout the eastern states, frequently near creeks, swamps, and suburban waterways, which brings it into regular contact with humans. The red-bellied black snake is actually relatively placid by Australian standards, and it will usually try to escape rather than bite. But it is still a genuinely venomous elapid, delivering a venom that can cause significant pain, swelling, and damage to blood and muscle tissue. While its bite is rarely fatal to a healthy adult, thanks in part to the snake's tendency to deliver a warning bite with little venom, it still causes serious envenomations that require anti-venom and hospital treatment every year. There is an interesting wrinkle to this snake's reputation, too. Some scientists believe the red-bellied black snake may actually help keep more dangerous species in check, because it will hunt and eat other snakes, including the deadly brown snakes, meaning its presence in a backyard is not always the bad news it first appears to be. Because it thrives in exactly the wet green places where people live and relax, the red-bellied black snake is one of the most frequently encountered dangerous snakes in the country, a striking, common reminder that Australia's venomous reputation is very well earned. At number 3 is a snake that holds a record you would not want to meet, the Mulga snake, better known as the king brown. Despite its name, it is not actually a brown snake, but a member of the black snake family, and it is one of the largest venomous snakes in Australia, reaching lengths of well over 2 meters with a heavy, powerful body. What makes the Mulga so dangerous is a single alarming statistic: it delivers the largest quantity of venom of any snake in Australia. While its venom is not the most toxic drop for drop, the sheer volume it can inject in a single bite is enormous, and unlike many snakes that deliver a quick defensive nip, the Mulga is known to hang on and chew, pumping in more and more venom. The result can be severe muscle damage, destruction of blood cells, and paralysis if left untreated. Adding to the danger is where the mulga tends to turn up. It is remarkably adaptable, thriving in deserts, grasslands, and scrub across nearly the whole country, and it will readily shelter near rural homes, sheds, and water sources, bringing it into contact with the very people who are furthest from a hospital. Found across most of the continent, including the dry, remote interior where medical help is far away, the mulga snake combines size, tenacity, and an unmatched venom yield into one of Australia's most formidable serpents. At number 2 is a creature so small you will almost certainly never feel it, and that is exactly what makes it so dangerous: the paralysis tick. Barely the size of a sesame seed when it first latches on, this tick buries its mouth parts into the skin and begins to feed, and as it does, it injects a toxin in its saliva that can have devastating effects. In some people, that toxin causes tick paralysis, a creeping weakness that climbs through the body, and in severe cases, particularly in children, it can lead to difficulty breathing and even death if the tick is not found and removed. But the paralysis tick has a second, insidious weapon. Its bite can trigger a lifelong severe allergy to red meat, a bizarre condition in which eating mammal meat can later cause dangerous allergic reactions. On top of that, the tick itself can provoke severe, even fatal anaphylactic reactions in sensitive individuals. The meat allergy it can cause is one of the strangest phenomena in all of medicine. A person bitten by the tick can, weeks later, eat a steak they have enjoyed their whole life, and then suffer a severe allergic reaction hours afterward, a delayed and baffling response that doctors took years to trace back to a tiny tick bite. Virtually invisible, easily missed, and capable of paralyzing a child or rewiring a person's immune system for life, the humble paralysis tick is one of Australia's most underestimated killers. And at number 1, the animal that, in parts of Australia, has killed more people than snakes, spiders, and sharks combined, and it is one almost no one outside the country has even heard of: the jack-jumper ant. Found mainly in Tasmania and southeastern Australia, this large, aggressive ant gets its name from its habit of jumping toward a threat, and it does not bite, it stings, gripping its victim with powerful jaws before curling its body to drive in the stinger, often repeatedly. For most people, the sting is intensely painful but not deadly. The lethal danger is anaphylaxis. In areas where the jack-jumper is common, a significant portion of the population develops an allergy to its venom, and for those people, a single sting can trigger a catastrophic, whole-body allergic reaction within minutes, collapsing blood pressure and closing the airway. In Tasmania, the jack-jumper ant has been responsible for more deaths than all of Australia's famous venomous creatures put together, killing on average around 1 person every 4 years in the state, and there is no widely available anti-venom, only a desensitization treatment for those known to be at risk. The story of this ant led to a genuine Australian medical breakthrough. After a string of deaths in Tasmania, researchers there developed a life-saving desensitization program, gradually exposing at-risk patients to tiny, controlled doses of the venom until their bodies no longer overreacted, turning a potential death sentence into a manageable allergy. It is the perfect ending to this entire list. The deadliest animal in the region is not the shark, the crocodile, or the snake, but an ant you could crush under your thumb, so small and so overlooked that almost no one sees it coming. So here is the real truth about dangerous Australia. The monsters that make the headlines, the crocodiles, The sharks, the giant spiders, are responsible for surprisingly few deaths because everyone fears them and takes precautions. The genuine danger hides in the ordinary: a swooping bird, a bat overhead, an invisible tick, a tiny ant in the grass. It is a lesson that runs through nature everywhere. The animals we fear and the animals that actually harm us are rarely the same. Of course, there are plenty of other dangerous Australian animals I could have included, so tell me in the comments which of these surprised you the most. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.